seconded. I point out that we have two matters for an executive session at the end of the public hearing, and I don't think there's any other changes to the agenda. All those in favor, please indicate. Aye.
Aye.
Oh, good. 6 out of 6. Moving along, the approval of the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, there are the approval of the minutes from our last select board meeting as well as our annual retreat on May 29th. The Energy Committee meeting minutes from May 22nd. A liquor and tobacco license for Green Mountain Market on East Main Street. Assemblage permits for the Middlebury Union High School reunion. And a application for funding from the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund, correspondence, current budget reporting. That accepts the motion.
I have a couple of things on the retreat agenda.
All right, let's move it and then discuss things that we would like to discuss.
I move.
Perfect.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Or should we, yeah.
We
right,
know we
sorry.
have to do
Let's
it
move.
before we can
Let's
approve it.
discuss, yes.
Okay, line 59 on the retreat. 58. Look at 59. Does it sound okay to you? I became involved with the interfaith work and Islam of Vermont, Islamic Society of Vermont.
Sure.
Okay, and line 149. Natalie Peters came to the select board meeting asking the town to donate. Was she here or did I miss it?
She came previously for public comments. She was not,
Not at the retreat,
I
she
was
came
not
at an
there.
earlier meeting.
yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't remember seeing her.
Okay. Very good.
I have a question
Bring it on.
on the water fund,
Yes.
under expenditures, under maintenance operations, the budget was for 391,000, and we've expended 925,000.
Correct.
The surge.
It doesn't surprise me, but what was it?
It was for all of the repairs associated with and the other repairs, which we have significant repairs to do any year.
So that's gonna create a big shortfall in their budget, or are we?
We're still working out where we are with the whole fund balance and everything on the water fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Any other comments on these items? All in favor of consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Next item is citizen comments. This is a time for any member of the community to bring an issue to us which is not on the agenda. Is there anyone here for something not on the agenda? There is a
Oh,
hand up.
we have Judy.
Judy.
Okay, Judy, you're on mute. There you go.
Welcome, Judy.
Okay,
We got you.
so the last time I was at this meeting, I asked a question about any kind of awareness follow-up, about concerns on the green. That there were incidents of individuals on the green, presumably, well, I'm not going to presume anything about them, but causing distractions to individuals that were frequenting the green as the evening unfolded. And I indicated at the time I would follow up at the next meeting, so I'm following up. What, if anything, has happened?
Judy, are you aware of all the things that we've, as the select board and various town organizations put together last summer in response to last summer's incidences that we're having and the work that they're doing. And so that committee is pretty active in addressing these issues and trying to help people out and try to control this downtown. But I'm personally not aware, maybe the chief can fill us in, if there's been some specific incidences this year that have risen to the top that have become alarming, because I'm not aware of those, except people talking on Front Porch Forum, and it hasn't been any other items except that. Chief?
Nothing out of the ordinary.
So I think it's important to note that, and I apologize again to Beth because she in part made me aware, and I know that she's not the spokesperson for the town. But yes, Dan, I understand that things have been related to this in the past, but this is now.
So, Judy, it's Kathleen. After your last visit, I've kind of been keeping an eye on the green, and Chief Covey can add anything he has to from the officer's perspective, the patrol person's perspective. But I haven't seen anything lately, and the gazebo is quite starkly lit. So.
Okay, if that's the case, it's awesome. The only other thing I would mention is, as you probably know, the parking lot behind the library. Not good. And I tried to go there with food periodically. I'm working up my courage to say to the individuals there that alcohol consumption is not permissible, but I think I have to bring backup before I do that. It makes me just a little nervous.
I would not recommend doing that, Judy.
Judy, we do have several service agencies, social service agencies, reaching out to these people on consistent basis.
No, I know. I know that because I was there when they came. But and now that school is out, it's going to be out, and there are kids in the parking lot, their parents. Unfortunately, I do not have a solution, which makes me reticent to bring up the problem. However, something to consider. Just saying. Thank you.
Not having a solution puts you in good company, I'm afraid, Judy.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right. Kira's gone to sleep. Anyone else for citizen comments? Any item that's not on the agenda? All right. Moving right along. The next item is number 6, recommendations on the water and wastewater budgets and rates for fiscal year 25. Presented by Emily Charrington.
Hello.
Hey, welcome.
Thanks. Would you like me to get the,
While Kathleen's opening that presentation, I'll just start by saying we're still working on reconciling these two budgets from the storm events last summer. I just did a big submittal last week, 2 weeks ago for Federal Highway, which that had some wastewater, didn't have any water in it. And so it's slowly starting to trickle back into our accounts. We've seen a few FEMA payments come in, but it's been for the very initial, they tried to put out the fires for like the emergency stuff, like us putting out barricades, which is one of the minimal expenses that we incurred. But they pay those out first. And so we are slowly starting to see that come back. The FEMA reimbursement, so the July storm, depending on the time period, it's 100% reimbursement, and then it will drop down to 75% reimbursement. And then the August storm, it is going to a number of different funding parties, Federal Highway being one. We have some coming back in from V-Trans for the efforts out at Dow Pond on 116, that water line. And then we also have all of our wastewater areas were mostly insured, and so that goes through our insurance company first, and then FEMA picks up the difference. So there's just a lot of moving pieces that still are getting sorted out. So some of that budget deficit will be resolved when those reimbursements come in.
Do you know what the expected amount is that's sitting out there that we expect to be reimbursed from these various parties?
It sort of depends on the response that we get from the insurance company, because that's been the moving target so far. Because they received so many claims.
Sure.
I don't know if you've heard an updated.
Well, good news on that, they are prorating claims that were in flood zones, but since a lot of our facilities were not previously designated flood zones, they're gonna be insured at 100%.
Okay,
So,
so that will greatly help. That's most of our wastewater
Nice.
impacts.
Is this done through VLCT?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, yep.
Very good. Great.
So that'll make a big difference. So just a lot of moving pieces, but it'll be better than it currently appears.
All right.
So should we start with water? Can you flip to that next slide, Kathleen? Water, obviously, we had issues last summer, out at 116 Dow Pond, and we had some well impacts. And then more recently, we had the pressure surge in the system. And I think it has heightened awareness of some of the concerns in our system that we need to address. And so we're trying to start tackling some of those concerns, figuring out a method to approach the bigger issues that we have. So on the revenue side, we're looking at about a 13% increase across the board for what we'll be expecting for water charges. TAP-on fees, I increased slightly in this budget to more accurately depict what we have received annually, and the same for meter sales, just so it makes sense mathematically a little bit more so. On the expense side, one of the major drivers, we just added an additional employee, so we're actually up to 4, which historically it's been a three-party department. And then benefits increased also this year. So we have 2 new employees and then 2 who have been here, but there will be additional training and professional services sort of training to get, especially one of the employees, his certifications needed. And just maintenance costs, most of these are projected increases for, like chemicals, things like that, all of that cost going up across the board. Meters, there's an increase just so that we're including endpoints and meters both in that line item. And I know we haven't entirely replaced all of our endpoints yet, and we still have a number of meters that we need to pick away at replacing.
The endpoint is the cellular reporting
Yeah, that's what we're actively going in so that we can digitally get it instead of having to manually go out and read the meters.
Is the decrease in professional services related to adding fourth employee? Is it that you're doing more in-house, or is it just that you
That-
need less professional services?
Would be a better question for Bill. I don't know off of I think it's a decrease in legal services, and then he also had a decrease in engineering. And I don't know historically what had been put in that engineering services different than where we put it in the contractual, so I apologize for that.
Yeah.
Did you have a question?
I was just gonna say, you started by saying that you were gonna increase water charges, and the way that it was presented, just for the benefit of people in the audience, in the infrastructure committee, is that because of the expenses we've incurred and what we think we need to do, that is what drove the increase. It didn't start with the idea we were gonna increase. We started with the problems that we face. So I just
Yes.
wanted to turn that around a bit for the benefit of the people
Thank
who
you,
are
Fred.
wondering,
No, that's
what are
absolutely
they
correct.
doing?
I mean, obviously, the end goal is to make the improvements to our system, and we need to start incrementally doing that. And we can't do it holding the budget where we are, unfortunately. The other issue that we're running into that I think we've seen across the board is since COVID, just expenses have gone up exponentially. So, and then we did increase the capital improvement budget by 15%, to start building some of these projects in. A few of the projects that we're looking at are an additional well, so that we have just duplication wherever we can. We pretty much feed most of the system off of one well, so if something does happen to that well, it's not a great situation for the town. Also, we want to do a study of our valves, figure out which ones are working, which ones aren't operational. That's something that really came to light this winter with that pressure surge situation. And so, and then put out a contract to start improving, making replacements on those valves. So those are some of the bigger ones that we need to start tackling. And we do have, I have a number of grant applications out for the water tank, which if that does move forward in this cycle, that would be a great benefit to the town, just having that additional day's worth of storage and capacity there. So did you have something, Andy?
No.
Okay. For the water rates, I tried to play around with it using a few different approaches. Increasing the flat rate for in-town from $68 up to $82 a quarter, and then for out-of-town from $74 up to $89, and then increasing the usage rate from $4.05 to $4.40 per 1,000 gallon for in-town. For out-of-town, an increase from $4.32 to $4.72. And in computing this, I was trying to play around with it by going heavier on the flat rate and then not increasing the usage rate quite so much, which is typically in asset management because you're really paying for the infrastructure with this budget. That's what you want to see. But that was drastically skewing the increase that a resident would feel burdened with. So I tried to keep it a little more balanced in this approach. So it does come out to about a 16% increase across the board. It's a little bit tricky to gauge because that's all based on 9,300 gallons per quarter, which some people use more, some people use less. But that's sort of the takeaway is using that equation. The average resident would see an annual increase for in-town of about $70, $69.02 a year. Out-of-town would be $74.88 a year.
So the thing that jumps out at me is you said a 13% increase on the first page, and then here you've got a 21% flat rate, 9% usage coming to 16%.
It's the way it averages
Okay.
out,
Just
yeah.
different math, gets you
It's-
the 13
yeah,
versus 16.
Yeah,
Okay.
but that's where, when I was really trying to increase the flat rate, it was more like a 25 or a 26% increase just across the board, so I backed off from that,
Huh,
yeah.
okay.
I think we are in the middle of our asset management study for the water system, and our engineer will be presenting that in August to the infrastructure committee, and then, of course, we'll take it to the select board. And in that, we're doing a rate study, so we'll be able to develop a path moving forward. But I think for what we need to start picking off with the budget, this gets us on the right path.
Comments and questions?
Just to add, because there was more reaction to this as this budget was built through the infrastructure committee, there was a comparison or a study of how our water and sewer rates compare with other communities in Vermont, and people will be relieved perhaps to know that we're nowhere near the highest. But comparing, water rates and sewer rates in different communities is like comparing children. Honestly, every community is different. Some have needs that are unique and like we do to build resiliency into our system. So we did do a benchmark check just to see where we were, and but the key here is to build resiliency, I think, into the system by taking steps that ensure the reliability of the supply, that lessen the amount of time that the system is down, that we're out of water, and work towards preventing the kind of unusual situation we had this past year. So that's just background for others that might be interested. I think that if you really want to make you feel good about this, the increased cost per day on an average usage of 19 or 21 cents sounds almost affordable.
I agree with that for that reason.
When you break it down to pennies, it does. That turns into dollars.
Any other comments or questions on the water side of this equation? Great. Moving on.
Moving on.
Water when it leaves our house.
Wastewater. So I worked with Bob Wells to create this budget, and one of his major suggestions was to increase septage rates, gray water rates, and sludge rates, which have not been increased since 2017. So before we made that recommendation, he called other municipalities to make sure that we weren't the only one making these increases. But essentially, if people are on a septic system, they call the honey truck, and then the honey truck comes to a plant. So a lot of times in this area, they'll come to Middlebury, they might go to Virgins, they might go to Brandon, depending on where they're based out of. So we didn't want to skew our rates so much that it was more affordable for them to go to a different plant. But from calling other areas, they were all sort of on track with also increasing their rates. So we felt pretty confident in picking these numbers. And it's really just a 2-cent increase other than the sludge rate, which is the 3-cent increase. But that helped cushion needing extra revenue from our user side of it slightly, so we were able to reduce that while still building infrastructure improvements and other costs into the budget. So the major drivers in the wastewater budget, employee benefits, there was a 16% increase just in healthcare costs this year. Training, we have one new hire and then potentially two over at the plant. And so the new hire that we do have does not currently have certifications, and so he will be starting on an apprenticeship program and start going through that process. Maintenance costs increase for the treatment plant and for pump stations, and then maintenance of mains, similar increase. And a lot of that is just pricing of chemicals and things of that nature. Capital improvements, I held at a 10% increase for this budget, just based on what we're looking at for projects. This cycle of funding is pretty much going to the South Street sewer improvements that we're scheduled to construct next year. So we should be in good shape for that project. And then
I've got a question on that.
yeah.
And I think I know the answer, but for employee benefits, the water department went up, had a 48% increase, and the sewer had a 16%. Is that just because of the new extra hire?
Yeah, and
Okay.
there were changes in the subscription rates of people that are newly employed with us. So whereas we may have had,
Versus individual.
yeah, exactly.
And sometimes this is somewhat confusing to me, because maybe a 26% increase in station maintenance might be only a few $100s, but a 16% increase in employee benefits might be thousands of dollars. So I understand the relationship of what we did the year before, but I don't understand the impact on the budget with just putting down percentages like that.
So it would be helpful to have the amounts so you can see the scope of.
You see the
what-
scope of what it is, yeah.
That's fair. You can, on the actual budget spreadsheet.
Yes.
You can see it that way. And so when I was doing these, I grouped them together sort of by the categories on here.
Right.
And so I just added up all of
Okay.
the maintenance increases and
Okay.
lumped that into the 26%
Okay.
increase. Anything else on this before we get to the rate section of it? I think there is built into this, one of the lines, we are doing a set aside for the wastewater treatment facility upgrade that we're currently working on in very early engineering, but we know it's looming in the future, so we are setting aside funding for that.
So just to expand on that a little bit, when we made the last $410,000 payment on the 2000 plant, we basically level funded that amount so that the rates wouldn't be unnaturally lowered as we go into the new plant.
We're trying to avoid some of this.
Right.
And also.
And we can reduce the amount of the bond,
So we need to borrow
essentially.
the next version,
Yep.
yeah.
Yes. Which reduces, hopefully keeps rates more. Maybe.
Yeah, we'll know more this fall. We're getting the preliminary engineering, so we should have a better idea of the cost of the plant. So moving on, I think that there is a major difference in the way wastewater rates are calculated, is that our industrial users get pulled out because their load is so different than what residential and most properties produce for the plant, and so they get additional charges tacked on, but that gallon usage is also removed from the usage that creates this equation. So, in playing around with these ones, the flat rate seemed like the best fit, increasing it from $40 per quarter to $52 per quarter, and then increasing the usage rate from $7.41 per 1,000 gallon to $7.55 for the new fiscal year. That created the most balance and And then also in knowing that the sewer surcharges, which is what the industrial users create, they will be providing an additional 1.4 million into the whole equation that doesn't get calculated here.
And so they're about half the water and they're about half the revenue for the
Yeah.
wastewater system.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just, it's a huge load on
Yeah.
that plant.
Wow. All right. Comments and questions on the wastewater? All right, any comments outside the select board? Everyone's good with water and wastewater rates? Ross?
I would just offer that one way to potentially reduce the cost would be to phase out the water fluoridation program. It's actually, these days, it's not necessary. There's so much fluoride in most of our foods because they tend to be processed in places that have fluoridated water. We have fluoride toothpaste, you can get special fluoride from your dentist. That could be a way to reduce the cost of it.
How much does fluoride cost?
That, isn't that a federal or state mandated?
Nope. Town chooses.
Now, Richmond got us in trouble.
Brattleboro,
Yeah.
they don't fluoride, they don't have rampant tooth decay, everything's fine.
So how much does it cost for fluoride?
I would have to find it in
Yeah.
there. I don't think it's broken out
Probably
because
not.
there's also chlorination involved.
Okay.
So I made a note of it, so we can look at at that for next year.
I'll move that the committee recommend to the select board the proposed FY '25 water fund budget of $2,240,791.
Second.
We are the select board, right?
Second.
Oh,
I think you wanted
sorry.
this one.
Don't we have to do them individually now? Oh, that was.
That's
Oh,
what-
sorry, that's from the infrastructure.
Yeah, I think we can get rid of this.
So we can do them together in one motion? Okay.
Why not?
Watch us.
I'll move to accept and approve the proposed recommended FY '25 town water and wastewater budgets and related rates for FY 2025.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate.
Aye.
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 6-0. Very good. Thank you.
Emily, thank you very much.
Yeah,
for
thank you.
Thank
your
you.
time and effort on the budget this year. It's very appreciated.
Ah.
Thanks for coming in, Emily.
Yeah, that's great. All right, our next item is the Vermont Gas System request for an easement across town property to run service line to St. Stephen's Episcopal Church. Hey.
There's a whole bunch of people here from St. Stephen's Church. Wow.
See that?
Wow.
Fantastic.
Bring the
Welcome.
choir and you'd be
Good.
better.
You don't want me singing.
Oh, no, I didn't say you, I said the choir.
Okay, noted. So, I know there was something in your packet, but I think just for public information, we are requesting to ask for an easement across the town green into the church for Vermont Gas, so that we can have gas within the building. Just as a background, the building's about 200 years old. We're fast approaching our 200th anniversary. And the town gave that, we don't own any of the land, but the town let us build or suggest that we build a stone or brick church right on that green, and that's where it has stood for 200 years. So it's definitely been a fixture in the town. And it is something that's also used more than just one day a week. It's used by the community. We have been very open to ask or to involve people or ask people to, we're very happy for them to use the space at no charge to them. We cover the cost for it. And so there's a lot of community use in the building, and we want to continue that For instance, Festival on the Green uses the bottom floor as a staging area, and then last year, unfortunately, they were able to use the inside for a performance space. MCMC uses the space for piano lessons, including the piano. We have different nonprofits that come in weekly, monthly, sometimes annually for their different things. So this is something that is definitely an integral part of the community. And as you know, we've been involved in the community as far as like the Neighbors Together piece that St. Stephen's started, and then certainly led through the whole thing to mitigate the negative effects of the rail and bridge project. So all good. But anyway, we understand too that climate change is a big thing out there. We know that it's a serious issue, and we've taken it very seriously ourselves. We spent $50,000 buying into the Acorn Solar Farm, and that pays for some of our electricity, and we've done the best that we can for that. We have checked out the roof to see if we can put solar on a roof, and it's an old slate roof, 200 years old, and it cannot hold it. So there is such a thing, I guess, as a special solar slate panel, but it is so cost prohibitive, there's no way we could even come close to it. In 1997, we built an addition, and there are heat pumps throughout that, which work beautifully. Heat pumps do not work in the main church. It's just too big, and so that it's a non-starter right there. Our oil burners are no longer efficient, and so they're at their natural life, end of their life right now. So we have been advised that gas would be an option that we could use, and in that case, we would save about $10,000 a year in fuel costs, and our carbon reduction would be 31,293 pounds of CO2, is what has been estimated. So in addition to that, we're looking into mitigating moisture and air leakage, and to tighten up the building, improving insulation in the attic, energy efficient windows in the 1997 addition, insulation of the foundation and basement. We've had a water issue there. Upgrading to energy efficient lighting and electricity in the nave or the main area of the church, and overall making the whole envelope a lot tighter. So while it's not perfect, it is the best option for us and for the community at this point as we work with the community. So that is what we are asking for. And it would probably be about a two-day, I'll call it minor interruption that would certainly work around any activities that were scheduled on the green for Vermont Gas to bring the line down into the church. That's it.
So will this be mostly directional bored like they do, so to minimize the open trenching through the green? And
They would do the bore, they would bore down under.
We would expect them to bore.
Yeah, they would bore.
And, you know, the plan map that they included with this doesn't show the wires going to, electrical wires to the green, to the gazebo. So, obviously, if...
We've already been hard at work with both DigSafe and Vermont Underground to locate everything that's out there, and there is quite a bit out there.
Well, we could use a good updated as-built drawing of what's out there. Really?
The engineers, Engineering Ventures is doing our engineering for us here, and they will be surveying, and they will be plotting all the finds.
Does that get registered with the town?
What was your question?
Can we ask for that?
Yeah.
As part of the
board
deal?
should understand that the church has a major drainage and waterproofing plan for the entire building perimeter. That will be undertaken in the fall, starting in mid-October, after all the events of the summer and the fall, early fall take place, and involves quite a large disruption around the building for that period. And that will necessitate making sure that all those utilities are grounded and protected. so that can be accomplished. But in the end, it will improve the drainage of the green as well as that of the church. So,
And we'll share.
yeah.
I had a quick question. Why do we have to go all the way to South Pleasant? Is Vermont Gas not available on Main Street?
Well, no. As a matter of fact, it would be very difficult to try to crisscross due to
Mr.
the
Tenney,
road.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Would you come up to the microphone, please, just so we can make sure that
Come up and sit with Nancy.
You can sit with me. I do.
Sorry to interrupt you.
That's all right.
So Merchants Row and Main Street does not have Vermont Gas at this point?
Not really available, no. It's a difficult proposition because of the position of the tunnel
Okay.
and all of the,
okay, yeah.
all of the infrastructure that is in place there. So things like the post office is an orphan that really is not accessible for gas, even though it would like to make it available, but it doesn't work.
Got it.
So that's the situation right now.
National Bank does have.
National Bank has gas.
National Bank has gas.
Yeah, but they
But-
had to wait until the bridge tunnel.
Other side of the tunnel.
And this easement is owned by Vermont Gas, and they pay a tax to the town for the value of it, is that correct?
They pay taxes on their infrastructure.
They don't pay anything special for that.
Just understand, in the grand scheme of things, as Nancy spoke about this somewhat, that the church is trying to work to be as efficient as possible. It is using the better technologies of the day to the extent that they are best suited. But in the case of the nave, the sanctuary, that is a structure which is not suited to heat pump technology. And so just as my experience has been with working with the Sheldon Museum and with the Congregational Church, where we, with the support of Efficiency Vermont, installed natural gas service to heat those areas that need the most coverage, and to use the newer technologies where readily available and possible for the better spaces. So for instance, in the case of the Sheldon and in the case of the Congregational Church, you see different places have different types of heating. But in the main, more difficult spaces, the natural gas is used. And in both of those instances, the results have been very favorable, and the costs have been very favorable as well. So we would expect the same.
Other questions on the board? Other questions or comments from the public? Ross?
So there are some other options that the church could use. Biodiesel will burn in an oil furnace with some minor adjustments to the nozzle. There's also advanced wood heat, wood pellets, for example. So there's other options. But what troubles me is, we've got 5 to 6 years to make major reductions in our fossil fuel use. We're behind the curve. We're not moving fast enough in that effort. And the science is very clear, and even the judicial courts have found all kinds of documents showing that the fossil fuel companies know that this is a problem, and they've purposely tried to cover it up and obfuscate the issue, confuse people to slow down so they could keep selling their fossil fuels for as long as possible, even though they're causing massive destruction to our world, to our town. The cost of keeping our roads and our bridges that keep getting washed out. These are aggravated by companies like Vermont Gas and their products that they're selling, which contributes to this. And so what troubles me is that you're considering subsidizing them to continue their harmful impacts on our town by giving them free access to town land. You should charge them whatever the rate is for the normal rate for people that use, a right-of-way, and they should pay for it. we shouldn't be at this point in our history, with what's going on in the world, with all the efforts we're making to try to reduce our fossil fuel use, if they're going to put it in, if that's what you decide, you're going to support, more expansion of fossil fuel infrastructure, even though we're supposed to end it within 10, 20, 30 years, we've got to take it all out. At least, I'm asking you, consider not giving it to them for free. Just have them pay like any normal business would if, they were going to use town land and you approved of their use. It's pretty simple.
Just a question. It's a nonprofit. It's a nonprofit that does a lot for our community. They invest in a lot of programs and help a lot of people in town.
I'm not talking about the church. We're talking about Vermont Gas. They have plenty of money. They can afford to pay the going rate for the use of the right-of-way.
But we don't charge other utility companies, you know that, right?
That's
The
true.
GMP and stuff. So I don't know how we can discriminate against.
Well, I wouldn't see it as discrimination, because historically, other utility companies, when they put in the utilities, it actually benefits the town, and way more than there's any drawback. But now with fossil fuels, we're seeing it's not that much of a benefit. The main benefit to the church is they're going to save some money, a little bit of money each year. But the harm, that the amount of there's health issues with all kinds of diseases coming up with the ticks and mosquitoes because it's warmer. We've got crazy weather. It's messing up farmers' crops. It's messing up people's homes. It's threatening their lives. This is Vermont Gas is now becoming a hazard to the town. So is petroleum too. But there's efforts made to get us off of that and stop putting that in. And I think this is a point where all I'm asking, it's only a couple, $2,000, $3,000, whatever, a few $1,000s. It's not a big deal, but it's just the principle of the thing. Are you really wanting to subsidize this and give them and have the town have costs associated with, because it limits the use of the land where their pipe is now for the town.
Yes.
Yeah.
In future development. My understanding is that the value of the distribution system is like the poles the GMP has, right? This is property in the town, which pays property tax every year. And as the network is improved upon, the value of it increases and the taxes on it also increase.
Yep.
So I think that is the position of the town in allowing these utilities to use the public right-of-way, is that they're providing service, admittedly, in some situations with negative side effects, but also paying the town for the use of public spaces and providing that service as part of the property tax structure. John?
Yeah, I certainly don't argue with the fact that we need to address climate change as well and as quickly as we can. This is a matter of applying the best solution for this particular need. We're replacing one fossil fuel with a more efficient fossil fuel that burns cleaner. And it will, so in that regard, it will help the community. And at the same time, we have to recognize that while the heat pumps are good technology and they will get better, and we will do more with renewable resources for electricity production, it's still right now produced by 70% fossil fuel burning. And that while we see solar panels all over, their contribution to the electric grid overall is very minimal. So there's a long way to go there. Coal still producing 20% of the electricity consumed in this country. So getting coal off is a bigger need, and I think that we're addressing this at the local level in the best way we can with this particular circumstance.
John, your comments show how successful petroleum industry has been in spreading misinformation. The research actually shows that due to the methane leakage in the fracking process, in transporting gas and at the usage, gas is just as bad as coal, if not worse in some cases. So the thing is, if you're, and I'm not saying don't give them, don't approve it, okay? What I'm saying is just charge for the land use. And I have to say, because I've brought this up before, and I've made a commitment, if you decide to not charge, then I will feel compelled to petition in the town to get signatures and force the select board to put it on the ballot and let the town people decide. Ideally, the select board would put on a ballot vote to ask the town if all future easements from Vermont Gas, should they be charged or should it be free? And then we could clear the question. But as a citizen, I don't have the power to, dictate to the select board what to put on the ballot, except when it comes to the conveyance of town land. Then the legislature has given citizens the power to petition and make it a vote. And so I will exercise that if I need to, because I feel it's a serious question. I think the town, a lot of people in town feel it's an issue that we need to be doing more to address. And we keep making exceptions, and we keep saying, oh, but this in this case, oh, but in this case, we need to start getting serious.
We did that petition several years ago too, right? Against Vermont Gas?
No, it was about asking them to pay for
Yes,
the
we
use
did
of the
that,
land,
right.
yes. And that was for Mill Street a number of years ago, and at that time, 40% voted for favor of it and 60% voted against. Of course, things are much worse now, so who knows how the vote would come out.
Nancy?
Yes, may I just ask, I don't disagree, or, Ross has his points, whatever, but can that be a separate item, like on a different agenda? I mean, it seems like it's different than what we're asking for, and so I'm just like to bring it back to that if I could.
I think that makes sense. I think the select board has definitely heard your concerns. I think we're all, at this point, anyone paying attention is very aware of the climate crisis. And Kathleen just let me know that the town has previously charged for easements across town lands for a recent sewer easement that we gave down Chittenden Hill. It's not unheard of. This is the town green. It's not just going under a road like many Vermont Gas hookups. It is something that may bear consideration. I think it is separate from whether we grant the easement, except we can't really grant the easement with a condition if we're going to grant it right now. Thoughts?
I do think that there is, in this particular case, there is potential to change future usage of this area with that line and the easement. So I think it's worth considering. I think overall, I'm in support of the easement, but I think I would like to know what it might prohibit in the future. Not that I necessarily have any plans for there, but what does it do if we want to upgrade the gazebo there?
It maybe makes it more expensive.
Can we even think about, can we even envision that? Can we really, you're talking a study or a years-long project to decide whether we're gonna do in town. We haven't done anything to that property in 250 years. To envision what is gonna happen in the next 250 years and slow them down, I don't agree.
I don't know that, I would just like to understand what having that gas line there would prohibit us from doing anything,
I think the worst case is we would move it if we had some other
Right.
project that would go.
Move the gazebo and then.
Or move the gas line.
Move the gas line.
Like go change the road.
It'll have to go straight.
Yeah.
Other of your easements have required, if something like that came up, for the gas company to move the line for the new
Okay.
development.
Right.
There's there's two issues here, and you brought it up, and the one issue is they want gas.
Yes.
And I think we should come up with a conclusion whether they're gonna get gas. And then the other idea is whether we're gonna pursue what Ross has said and make Vermont Gas pay for this easement.
Yeah.
I don't,
Do you have a suggestion about how to proceed?
I knew you were looking at me for that.
I don't think we can approve the proposed easement unless we have decided whether we're gonna charge for it or not, right?
Right.
So we can't approve it tonight if that's something we wanna pursue. Okay?
So what's the process to go ahead with Vermont Gas to have them pay? I mean, is that a 2-year project, or is that we just approve this and say we want them to pay something? Or?
Oh. The points that Ross makes are, it's just out of proportion, I think. The problem of climate change and how to change our societal way of doing things is so much more huge than somebody paying a little bit more rent, that it just seems totally out of proportion. And I think, I understand what you're trying to do, but I don't think paying a little rent's gonna fix really what you want fixed.
No, but do you think we should be paying to expand fossil fuel infrastructure, given the state of things? Is that what we really want to be doing? And subsidizing it, basically.
I just think that the amount you're talking about that would be customary for any easement on private land or so, that it doesn't solve.
No, of course not.
It doesn't send much of a message. What is needed is far more profound. So I don't want to be disrespectful about it, but I think we should treat this as other requests to the town for access to the utilities have been treated.
So you know I'm a beekeeper, and I've
Yeah.
learned a lot about cumulative impacts. A honeybee in its entire life can only gather enough nectar to make 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey. But yet, to get through an entire year in Vermont, a hive needs hundreds of pounds of honey. 1/12 of a teaspoon seems insignificant, but they don't fall for this illusion that what they do doesn't matter. The bee gathers what it can, and the other bees gather what, that tiny little bit, it adds up to. I mean, the reason we have problems with the climate is because burning fossil fuels, one person burning an internal combustion engine is insignificant, right? But we have billions of people doing it now, and each person doing that little bit of harm is adding up to huge problems. The way to solve it is the opposite. All of us have to stop doing those little bits of harm. We have to start doing good things. And those little things will add up. There's not going to be one big thing that's just going to happen. It's going to be like places like this, towns all across the country, all across the world, where the town fathers or mothers sit there and make these decisions and make the right choices.
And it's hard to, we can't argue that, but I don't think we can change what we've done historically and what they've expected we would provide for them as a town right now. We need to take this conversation and come up with, if we're gonna do this, and we have a separate policy to do that, but making them an example and eliminate something that they need to do the better good that they do, this is not the place to do it. So I agree with you, but we have set a precedence over the years of what we do, and I think we have to continue in those precedents unless we create a policy that's different.
Kathleen just pointed out, you do have a precedence where you've charged for right-of-ways, and this isn't about...
Your point there wasn't about charging this. Your point was about not doing this because we've got to start someplace. I agree that there's probably a good case that we should be charging. But I agree with Fred. We need to approve this so they can have their gas, because we don't have a policy that says that we're gonna deny them gas. So I am the select board, my opinion, we're gonna give them gas.
Yep.
We just need to know how we're gonna do it and what we need to do here to get it. And then you need to come to us in the policy committee and start working up a different policy if we want to do that.
5 years ago, you said you were going to work on a policy. It hasn't happened.
Yes. We have a policy committee now that's making great strides, and Nancy sits on it, so.
Three of us are on it.
So let me tell you, asking them to pay for the easement, you think they're not going to pay a few $1,000s for the incredible benefit they're going to get in profit? Of course they will. They're going to get their gas.
I think they will.
All I'm asking you to do is ask them to pay the fair market value. This is not going to stop them
I
from
think
getting their
whether-
gas.
Whether they
And
pay or,
that's again something different than, well, we've done it. We did it in the last sewer line that we had put in.
whether they pay or not, they are asking for an easement from us.
Mhm.
We should do that,
Well, Vermont Gas is asking for it, and they're asking you to approve it.
yes.
Yeah.
We don't want to delay what they need right now.
Well, there won't be much delay if you
That's all.
ask for them to pay it and they pay it. If you don't ask them for them to pay it, there will be a delay because I will be circulating a petition and forcing a vote, and that will delay things.
And
I'm not
use
worried
public
about that.
money for a vote.
Unless you incorporate it in the November election, which is about the right timing, actually.
Heating season.
I'm not gonna hold up to that kind of blackmail. That's just-
I'm not doing
that's
it as
just-
blackmail, I'm just telling you, I feel so strongly about it.
I
I'm
know.
just trying to be transparent.
I know, you're not gonna change my
This is not a
opinion
threat.
with threatening like that.
Yeah, it's a
so.
promise, it's not a threat.
I know you'll do it. You've done it before.
So, I
Motion?
think we know where we are. Yes.
Okay, I can move. I'll move to approve the proposed easement deed between the town of Middlebury and Vermont Gas Systems for the purpose of installing a natural gas service line to the St. Stephen's Episcopal Church, subject to the required state notice period.
Do we want to add anything about?
Let's second it first.
No, I didn't.
Are you going to?
I'll second it. Fine.
Okay, very good. We have a motion and a second. You were asking about whether we would modify this to
Right.
add a request for the purchase of easement by Vermont Gas.
Right. Or that we at least look into it.
I don't think the motion would need to say that we're going to look into it, but I guess it could.
He's gonna start a petition tomorrow, so.
Can we approve the easement and then look into?
So, in order to move this forward, we'll need to do 24 VSA 1061 notice, which requires the terms of the easement that you're going to be granted to be included in the notice.
So,
How much,
30
if anything.
period after the publication
Mhm.
of the terms of the easement.
Yeah.
So any construction is out, notice plus 30 days, plus whatever the outcome of that is. Okay.
So the question is, do we have to put a value of how much we're gonna charge for that easement? 'Cause
Yes,
I have no idea how to
yeah.
quantify that.
So
We
if-
have, in the past, been required to include the amount of the easement in the, yeah.
Because if we approve this motion, what we're approving is the easement that is in our packet,
Mhm.
and it does not include a purchase price. So unless we specify that in the motion tonight, I don't think we have the option to come back to it later. That's my understanding.
Say that again?
If we approve this motion, we are approving the easement that is in the packet, and that easement does not include a purchase price for the easement. So if we approve it without a purchase price, it goes into that 30-day notice, and I don't think we have the opportunity to then ask for.
Right. So tonight, we would have to approve a purchase price, is what you're saying?
Or get one for our next meeting
I
to
think-
modify the easement.
Can we do subject to negotiation of a purchase price?
I think if we are going to propose an amendment to the easement, it would have to go back to legal counsel before it could be approved.
Okay. Do that by the next meeting?
Could you explain that?
Yeah, we're gonna approve something that it has to have legal review and you know, we're gonna probably have to vote on it again, and so it's gonna have to come back. because we don't know whether with modification.
So you're gonna ask me to contact Vermont Gas and negotiate a price?
Negotiate a
That's what,
different
yeah.
proposed easement, which means we cannot approve the motion that is on the floor,
Right.
the way it is moved.
If I may, why couldn't you approve the motion and just add that they'll pay the fair market
Subject to
value?
market price.
Right,
There's
and then,
not
and
a-
you don't have to know the exact amount.
There's not a rich market in the sales of putting a pipe under a concrete.
Actually, I've talked to the assessors 5 years ago when this came up, and
Yeah.
there is, they know the value for
Okay.
easements
What did they
through
tell you?
right-of-ways.
What did they tell you?
They told me it's usually just a few $1,000s. And that, if that, for this guy, at least for the one down there. Now, I don't know about, it may be different on the green, I don't know how long it is, there's all these values there. But they can figure it out. They have their formulas, and that's their job. They know how to do that.
I think if we could make a recommendation on what we wanted the easement to say, but it would have to go to legal counsel and have to come back to us. And the 30-day warning would not start until we approved the easement. And there is the potential that we make a recommendation on what we would like the proposed easement to say, and that Vermont Gas rejects it, and then we have to negotiate, I would assume, on a new proposal.
I was just thinking that St. Stephen's is in the position of saving $10,000 a year. That there's certainly probably some energy to get this done. I don't know why you're sure this would need to go to legal counsel to add a fair market value clause to the easement.
Because it's a legal document.
Yeah, okay.
Well, if we make a motion like for the fair market value, and the attorney says that's okay, do we need to approve it again? We just approved something he said is okay.
You're really putting me on the spot here, Dan.
Well, you're the one that went to law school.
Barely, I barely went to law school.
Could, David, could you provide us any guidance, or is this not?
You thought you were immune out there.
I'm trying to put you on the spot, but if you had any suggestions off the top of your head, or if not, then
Yeah, I don't,
Not the tax council, so.
yeah.
There we go.
I think we are making, if we want to add something to this contract, it is a legal document, and we can suggest amendments to a legal document, but the other party in agreement could deny what we've suggested, in which case it would go to legal, right? I mean, that would be my logical. So, if you want to add fair market value to this contract, I don't think we can approve the motion as made on the floor at this time.
Without
I
any-
think we should talk about an amount.
We don't know it yet.
If you want me to research and suggest an amount, or if you want to come up with an amount.
I don't think we have expertise on this board.
Right.
To determine what the right amount would be.
Okay, so I can research an amount.
May we make a suggestion?
You sure may, please.
Okay. Here's a suggestion. You pass this, you deal with this, and then you also have direct the policy committee to come up with a policy going forward, as opposed to backpedaling and not having really researched it and all that. And so that's something that I'm sure David would love to do.
Well, I think Ross has got, his question is whether we're ever gonna do this.
No,
But-
that could be a second motion that
Yeah,
goes
yeah,
to the policy
but-
committee, and by a certain date,
Yeah.
But
We're
there
very
is,
efficient.
there is some reason to say that we should be getting compensated for an easement. And that, and that's, and we've done that. The last time we had it presented before us, Yeah, with the sewer line, we did.
The other
Okay.
suggestion is to table it and do it for the next meeting.
Yeah, I think you need to feel comfort in that we're very supportive of what you're gonna do, and we want you to do it. We
That's
just
very
need
nice to hear.
we just need to figure out how we can do it.
Yeah.
Can I-
We're
And
sort
make
of in the
everybody happy.
crossfires here, if I can say
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Uh,
Welcome to a select board meeting. You've been here.
Can I just say, on principle, the other easement that you're talking about was for a private property
Yes.
owner that would increase the value
Right.
of their private property.
Right.
And this is a public nonprofit entity in town. And I view those as different
Okay.
situations. I think that the scale of what Ross wants to achieve with his efforts really would be better employed, if I might suggest, in seeing if there could be some advisory vote or education for that for a national carbon tax, something that would actually achieve and move and motivate people at the scale needed, rather than picking on these people.
I don't mean to, this isn't about the church. Anybody who wants to get an easement, this is about that, Vermont Gas getting it for free. That's what, this is about Vermont Gas. This is not about the church or anybody else that might want to get hooked up and ask the town for an easement. It's about the town giving free use of our collectively owned property away to a company whose very business model is harming our town and making things harder for us in many ways.
Well, it's also a company that's really helped us in our town with it keeping several very large corporations still out on Exchange Street and helping us. So if it wasn't
Well,
for
of
that.
course, it's not, yeah, it's complicated.
Right, right.
Yeah, when I was on your side of the table, we
Yeah.
worked very hard to bring Vermont Gas here.
Absolutely. When I was at Agrimark, while you were on the side of the table, we very much wanted and needed Vermont Gas in town. Yeah, absolutely.
We had all the business leaders in the room
Yeah.
to echo that. I have not heard a bad word about it.
So what are we doing?
We have a motion, we have a second.
Do you need an amendment to that, is my question.
Would you like to make an amendment?
Subject to a fair price negotiation with Vermont Gas? Would that
Is-
be sufficient?
So that will approve a non-existent,
Dollar amount.
well, I mean, we don't have a easement that has a dollar amount in it. So we would be directing, staff to determine and add the dollar amount.
I like Nancy's idea about getting through this motion and have a policy for future.
Would you like to make that amendment
So you're
We don't need an amendment.
meaning not,
as a second motion later?
Yep.
but you mean you're not charging Vermont Gas anything for this?
No, because we haven't charged them so far.
If the fair market value is the average of what they had paid for easements for gas services elsewhere in town, that might be $1. You know, I just, we could ask that they pay the average of what Vermont Gas has paid for other private easements.
I think I'd be more comfortable if we do something in 2 weeks.
Yep, I agree.
I'm uncomfortable.
So
I'm
would we have to
uncomfortable
vote
with-
down
I'm uncomfortable going
this
ahead.
motion?
Fully support doing this, do everything we can to make sure we do this,
Mhm.
but I'm uncomfortable with our options.
So then that is voting down the current
Yes.
motion on the floor.
That would be voting down this motion that's on the floor.
Yes.
You just table it.
Yep.
I think it would be cleaner to
Make a second motion to table.
vote it down and table. I don't know, but I'm not that.
That's fine. We have right now the presented easement in front of us. Those in favor of approving the easement as presented, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
It's split.
But you seconded the motion.
Doesn't matter. Learned that from Fred the other day. Taught me that one.
Well, there isn't the concurrence of force, so you basically failed to act.
Right.
Yeah. So we, I think, have guidance to add a dollar value to this and bring it back to us at our next meeting.
So,
Or it could come back and say it's not worth doing, something like that, but, I mean,
I'd rather us make the best decision
Right.
with the information we have. And we'll have
You
more
can always
information.
get more information.
no, this is,
So what does this mean?
This means that this easement did not pass.
What does it mean, though, going forward?
It means that we will bring this up again at our next meeting, probably in 2 weeks. We will have advice from staff on what the amount is. Hopefully someone will talk to Vermont Gas, and hopefully we can pass this and get the ball rolling.
we're gonna pass this. I can't promise that, but, I mean, we're all theoretically in support of what you're doing.
So what's the objection?
Doesn't sound like it to me. Has to do with whether or not there should be a fee for the ad.
No.
Maybe with our seventh member here.
What, do you think they're gonna say no?
You're gonna make a lot of money from the church, a few thousand bucks even.
Somebody give me information that Vermont Gas is gonna say no.
I think that they would say no.
They make
They say
money
no.
by building infrastructure. That's how they make
After
money.
this conversation, they're probably smart to say no. But,
Thanks.
So then we don't get gas?
no,
Well, maybe at our
No,
next
no,
meeting,
no.
our seventh member will be here
Yeah.
and
There's gonna
will
be a
change
seventh.
the outcome of the vote instead of it being a tie.
So.
I say, I'm not against this, and I'm rabidly in favor of this.
So what are you
I
against?
just think,
What are you against?
So,
okay, do you guys want us to make the motion? You guys want us to pass this? Do you hear what Ross said he's gonna do? Do you understand what Ross said he's gonna do?
Yes.
He's gonna put a petition that's gonna hold up your gas line for a year.
No.
No.
It's completely divorced from our situation.
6
Yeah.
It's
months.
for going forward on other items.
Oh, no.
Oh, Russ,
I can't do that.
Yeah, we should not be blackmailed by someone
I was,
No.
that they
You have the
will
power when it comes to
implement the
conveyance of land.
tools of democracy.
I was the first one that said that.
For
I just don't
sure.
think we have enough information.
I've looked into it.
We've been through this before.
Done this
Suggested.
before.
so what happened in the
Oh, I-
past, when we went through this before and we decided that we were gonna go through the process of requesting payment for the gas easement, if I remember correctly, was Vermont Gas found an alternate route that did not use public land.
There's no alternate route to the church.
Yeah, but this held up that property for a year.
Yes, that's what you wanna do.
What's that?
Hold up this project.
No.
No, if we,
That's what you're doing.
no, we're not. If we pass,
Yes, you are.
So in
I'm
2
sorry,
weeks.
I'm the one that's holding it up, not the select board.
It's very unfair. They're trying to
sorry you
work with
feel that way.
And you're just being a bully and threatening.
come on, please, please.
Hey, guys. Yeah.
I don't think that getting some more information and delaying this vote 2 weeks is gonna make that significant of a difference in the construction schedule for the project, right?
I agree.
We didn't ask that beforehand, but, okay.
What'd you say?
If we pass the motion tonight, you do have to go through the 30-day notice, and that's when the petition happens, right? And that potentially delays that 30-day notice, right?
So if the petition comes in within the 30 days, and then you have to warn a special town meeting or incorporate it with a vote that's already taking place.
And so the next scheduled vote taking place is primaries in August, right?
Right, you need a 30-day notice on a town to include it in the vote, so
Okay.
that would be
So
tight.
if we vote this tonight and Ross puts a petition together and gets it in within the 30 days, and we have to have a town vote on the conveyance of the public land, that potentially extends several months out. If we
They could go in
can,
November with the
Yeah.
general election,
Right.
yeah,
and it would not be harmful to the schedule of the church's capital improvement.
Then,
So on the other side of it, if we wait 2 weeks for some additional information on whether we ask for this or not, and we decide we do, and we pass it in 2 weeks, we still have to go through the 30 days.
No petition.
Ross maybe doesn't do a petition, and then your construction schedule could possibly go sooner.
Correct.
all I'm asking for is 2 weeks to do my due diligence. That's all I'm asking for, is 2 weeks so we can do,
That's what you got.
I'll take the blame on me, do
Yeah.
our due diligence.
You got it. It's happening.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Here we are. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
I think you're making a mistake.
So,
I don't mean to be making things hard for you guys, but I appreciate your consideration. No, I don't mean to be. It's not the purpose here.
I think I lost some of my
It's an
friends.
obvious effect
Perhaps,
of your purpose.
perhaps you could, in the meantime, actually put something toward the policy committee so that they can actually do due diligence and look at all different angles on things, as opposed to just hearing one side or whatever here and there.
That's a big
So
topic,
suggesting
that's a huge
A
topic.
great idea.
Just suggesting that.
This isn't the first time that the subject of asking Vermont Gas to pay for the easement of public way has come up. It's not the first time.
Right.
And the last time, I think we did vote in favor of asking for money, and they decided to go an alternate route.
Right.
In this case, that may not be an option, but it's not the first time that it's come up that we asked for money. So,
It might be $1.
It's bad optics. All right. Item 8. Chief Covey, welcome aboard.
Good evening.
Man, fireworks at the Selectboard.
I'll try to make it.
You're here to suggest moving some money around to buy a drone or drones for the police department.
Indeed, a drone. So back in February, if you recall, I made a presentation to you looking for your support for the police department to implement its own drone program, unmanned aerial system to be exact. And you gave your approval for that, your support, and at the time we had no funding available. My plan, we were going to apply for federal grants and then perhaps seek in the budget process in the fall funds to purchase a drone. We have found ourselves in the situation where we implemented the drone program already. Two of our officers have become FAA licensed, are using their own personally owned drones. We've had 3 deployments in the month of May already.
Wow.
That if you take a look in your packet, you'll see. So the need is there, the use is there. Those were legal deployments, as you may recall. This is governed strictly by statute when law enforcement can use drones. And so we find ourselves in a situation where our parking enforcement position was vacated from July 1st until we were successfully able to hire for that position effective May 20th. That position is budgeted for just over $16,000 a year. The position, even if it were to work 40 hours a week, starting on May 20th, which it will not, it's not typically scheduled for that many hours in a week, will only use less than $4,000 of that $16,000 budget. The drone identified that best meets our needs is, we received 3 quotes, $9,800, give or take. And so we're looking for your permission to reallocate those unused funds from that parking enforcement wage budget to purchase that drone. When, if you take a look at the memo, the most recent deployment of this was on May 23rd, I believe, when an elderly gentleman wandered away at night from a care facility and was not reported to us until about an hour after his disappearance. And it was getting dark by then. Our officers arrived, deployed one of those drones. One of the drone pilots was on duty at the time, deployed his drone, but it was getting dark, so his visibility was very limited. When the initial attempts to locate the male failed, we started calling in the cavalry, which takes a while. We had assets coming from all over New England, K9s, or all over Vermont, K9s, and thermal-equipped drones. Our drones are not currently equipped with thermal imaging technology, which is what we're really looking for. Those at the time they were requested by the shift supervisor were about 2 hours out, which would have put 3 hours after this male first disappeared. The supervisor responsible for the incident that night, they ended up finding him by keen eye before all those assets arrived. Just by happenstance, the male had wandered away from the facility, got tired, laid down in a field, and took a nap. The drone, our drone, overflew him.
Okay, no kidding.
The drone pilot and the supervisor are adamant he would have been found within minutes with thermal imaging. If they had not noticed him when they did, just being in the right place, right time, noticed him standing up, it would have been hours. And unfortunately, hours can matter, and somebody in that situation wander away, wander towards the river. That was the primary concern. So, long story short, we have this budget that's going to be unused. We simply can't use it in the time because we didn't have the position filled. This is a life-saving device, potentially life-saving device that's already, we've had several scenarios where it could have made the difference. We've been lucky in each one. There was one back in the winter too. So just asking for permission to reallocate those funds.
Is this the same brand as the personal drones?
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. This is the considered the best
Professional level.
manufacturer. Yes.
Yeah.
This version that we're looking at, the original drone that we're looking at when I spoke to you in February, was more in the $15,000 range. That is a wonderful piece of equipment. It's very large, takes a while to set up, has some drawbacks. Should we successfully win this grant money, we won't know for months whether we do. It'd be our purpose to add an additional drone, and that may be a contender. That one can carry a payload, which is interesting to us. In that scenario, we used it in a tactical operation with the active shooter we had outside the police department, delivering a cell phone into the residence. But it can also carry a loudspeaker. That could be useful for us. But right now, for search and rescue, which would be our primary first use of it, this smaller, less expensive drone is rapidly deployable and can fly in poor weather conditions, whereas the more expensive one can't. So this one really fits our needs and is more inexpensive and is attainable with those budget funds that we have available right now to us. We would consider another version should that grant. We won't know for months, I presume, whether we win that grant.
Yes, please.
I'm in support of this for sure. Just interested if you have any sense on like how long something like this lasts, how often would it need to be replaced? Is there any
Batteries.
kind of, like,
Batteries.
batteries?
So it's like any technology. I'm sure it will, over time become obsolete, I guess, but I can't really speak to that. I'm not one of the pilots. I'm not the one that's done all the research on this. This is the one we've chosen, which is the more inexpensive option. State police have had a drone program for a while. They're looking in their new fiscal year to purchase about 15 of these, this same model. And they have several different versions, one of being the larger one we're looking at, but that one, again, has some limitations. It's not easily transportable in a cruiser. It takes up quite a bit of space, takes a while to set up.
How many pilots do they have?
VSP
Yeah.
has a number, because they're assigned to different special teams, like their crash team will have drone pilots, search and rescue will have dedicated pilots.
I'm just thinking like in terms of like what the budget looks like in the future and if you don't know, that's okay. It's
I
just
don't
things
know.
I'm thinking.
Like anything else, batteries will be, I presume, an issue, and, wear and tear.
Yeah.
They have protective technology, whether it be crashed, I've already discussed insurance.
Do you have
on
any
these.
sense, like, does this $10,000 unit roughly last 2 years? Does it last 5?
I believe it would be longer.
Oh, yeah,
I think that would
okay.
certainly be the plan.
I just don't
because
have any idea, so I'm just trying to get a sense.
I can't speak to it with authority, but I did not enter into this proposition with the idea that it'd be such a short-lived piece of equipment.
Would it be used as needed?
Yep, it can only be used as needed. Statute,
Pretty
Vermont
much
law.
for like search and rescue?
We can use it for search and rescue. We can use it for the investigation, detection of crimes. We're very restricted by Vermont law when we can use them, what we can use them
Not for
what we can do
surveillance
with
or
that.
anything?
Nope, we can't use them. We can't equip them with facial recognition technology. We are very restricted. We have to file an annual report with the
Okay.
state for any deployment of these. We have to keep records on them. We have to apply for search warrants in certain scenarios. Only scenario I'm aware of under Vermont law where we apply for a search warrant after the fact. We use a drone under what we call exigent circumstances, meaning emergency. We don't have time to apply for a search warrant. We apply for it after the fact. We've already deployed the drone at that point. We did that on Seymour Street. That was that exact scenario where we have someone shooting. We don't have time to contact a judge asking for permission to deploy a drone. The reason you apply for the search warrant after the fact is because any data you collected, if the judge deems you didn't
Cannot
have
use it.
cause, you have to destroy the data. So,
I'll move to approve the reallocation of $12,076 in budgeted funds in the FY '24 Middlebury Police Department operational budget towards the purchase of a UAS drone for the department use for $9,821.10.
Second.
So what happens to the balance? Is it gonna be in a drone fund?
I'm only asking for 9820. So that's the remaining balance that would be. I can't say that number is going to be exact because it's based on payroll.
Can I make an amendment to that motion, that we approve the reallocation of the amount of the drone, so $9,821.10, leave the difference in the,
Yes.
Working.
yeah.
Friendly second.
Did you get all that?
Yep.
Friendly amendment, accepted.
Yep.
Nobody can repeat it, but.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate.
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? No, we're all in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much.
All right, next up is a discussion on some issues of library importance with Dana Hart, the director of the Ilsley Library. There she is. And Chris Huston, the VP of Pre-Construction for REAR, our architecture partners. Welcome.
Hey, everyone. Thanks.
Hi.
And Kathleen, Judith is also zooming in, but she's using an email you might not recognize. It's Judy Bell Who.
We got it.
So if you see her, you can invite her in as well.
Very good.
Okay, we have a couple different items on the agenda to talk about tonight, and I think Chris and Kathleen will handle the big one, the amendment to the design build contract. But before we do that, I have a couple quick things to point out in your packet. There is an organizational chart and a document that explains some of the many groups that are working together on this project. As we shift into the next phase, we're reorganizing and roles are shifting a little bit. So there will be a project administrative team. That's myself representing the library, the trustees, the friends, the staff. There's Chris representing REAR Company. There's Judith representing the town. And so the three of us will be working closely together. The Ilsley 100 project team will continue to have periodic meetings and stay informed and provide high-level feedback, and we'll serve as community ambassadors. So if anyone has questions about this diagram, we can chat about it more, but I just wanted to make sure everyone knew it was in the packet, and I'll be reviewing this with the trustees and all the other groups that have sort of asked, what is our role as we go forward? So we have something now.
So, Dana, the only thing that got me at all about this was that it looks like Judith is responsible for figuring out the geotechnical and materials testing teams and things that seem to be very technical. Is that correct?
Well, the town is responsible for, those are owners' costs, and so Chris, maybe you want to speak to that, but I think Chris would probably work with Judith on that, but they would be contracted directly by the town.
Yeah, Dana, that's right, exactly right. You know, essentially, we've already begun the process of retaining those folks and coordinating very closely with Judith and Dana to have the services provided, but typically they are provided sort of third party to us, like especially with material testing during construction. We don't want to be testing our own, product. You as the town want to have an independent entity doing that kind of testing for concrete and soil compaction and so on.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Very nice chart.
Okay, so I'm requesting approval to submit a grant to the Walter Surf Community Fund. This is for $25,000 for the renovation expansion project. And if we were to get it, it would go specifically towards the preservation of the historic building. That grant application.
I think it's well written.
Oh, you read it.
Yeah, they put it in our
Thank
packet.
you.
So I just note, I'm gonna recuse myself from this, agenda item as I am an employee of the Vermont Community Foundation where the grant is, decided, and I'm just going to recuse myself.
Very good, thank you. Any other comments or questions on this community fund grant application?
I move to approve the proposed grant application by the Ilsley Public Library and the Walter Surf Community Foundation for $25,000 to support the library's ongoing capital fundraising effort.
Second.
Aw, you can have it.
Oh,
All right,
thank you.
moved and seconded. Not seeing anyone with other questions or comments. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions?
I recuse myself.
Oh, recused, sorry, recused. Okay, I think that's five.
That means I don't vote at all, in any way.
Very good. Very good. All right.
Great, thank you. So I think I'll turn it over, I guess to Kathleen or Chris for the approval of the amendment.
Chris, do you want to go ahead with the introduction of the contract? And I've been working with Chris and Judith on this contract, and I think Chris can best summarize it.
Yeah, thanks, Kathleen. I'd say to keep it fairly simple, there was some wisdom involved in terms of creating and approving the previous contract prior to the bond vote. I'm not saying that was my wisdom. I would point to Kathleen and Judith and Dana for those pieces relative to using a standard AIA contract, A141 design build form of contract that's very familiar to the town for numerous past projects. That standard form was, I think as you all know, reviewed by legal counsel prior to the bond vote. Should a successful bond vote be achieved, allowing us to do a fairly simple amendment to that contract, which is what you see in front of you tonight. And I wanted to point out that there will be one more amendment after we go through the process of designing, permitting, and final scheduling. So towards the beginning of 2025, after we go out for local and regional subcontractors, we receive those bids, we then formalize the final scope of the work, the schedule, and the cost, and that goes into one final amendment, which we then proceed into construction with. So what works fairly well is that it's an iterative process, such that it allows you, the select board, to be informed of progress along the way. And as I say, there is that sort of final checkpoint, if you will, to make sure that everything is aligned with funds, is aligned with permits, and ultimately schedule and so on. I think I'll leave it at that, Kathleen, is that good?
Yes, thank you. And as Chris mentioned, this was reviewed by council, and he did not have any concerns about it.
Comments or questions from the board?
You need a motion? I'll move to approve the proposed amendment to the contract with Re-Arc Company, Inc. relating to the Ilsley Library renovation and expansion project.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any other comments? Let's go. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's 6. All right. Excellent.
Super. Thank you all so much. I did want to just point out that obviously we've been, as I've expressed support, as Dana's expressed. We're so excited. Really couldn't contain ourselves. So we have been working before this on a whole host of things, geothermal in particular, getting that sort of next steps and so on. So we've engaged the whole team to begin to really push things forward. So
Awesome.
Exciting.
And no, not the last, we've got, yeah, 2 more library items here. Kathleen, the
Yes.
approval of the bond vote election validation resolution.
Yes, this is required as one of the final publication notices was missed in the paper, but we did have extensive publication of the notice. It was published 4 times in the Addison Independent and posted at 6 different places around town. And we also had a fantastic turnout for a special election, further validating that we got the word out. So you had the resolution in your packet. This is required to be passed by a 2/3 vote of the select board and will be signed by the town clerk, if passed.
I'll move to approve the proposed validation resolution and certify the actions taken by the town at the special meeting held on May 7th, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We need 4 yeses here, people. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
All right, we've got it. We have 6. Very good. And lastly, the first clerk of the works report.
Judith is available in our audience, but this was meant solely for a piece of information, and she will be providing these as necessary during the course of our project, anticipating that it'll be at least once a month.
She has her hand.
Oh, okay.
Somebody else.
Okay, Judith, go ahead, if you want to unmute your mic.
What I would like to get across to the board this evening is that this first quick report is really intended to be a model. And if you would review it and see if it tells you the right amount of information going forward, it would be helpful. The select board, as you know, is decision makers, so we will try to highlight those things that require decisions rather than just information. And please feel free as you read those, I know they come out in your packet, to ask any questions you have for clarification ahead of time. So with that, I'd just like to ask if there are any questions this time in terms of the information that's presented in the report. If there's anything you'd like to discuss further.
I thought it was excellent.
Yeah.
I have one.
Yes, please.
Judith, thank you for this report and your service. I just have one question about, will anyone, will part of your service or anyone else on the team independently sort of evaluating the choices going into the building, to make sure that we're not specifying things that will have a short lifespan or will, so I'm just thinking about long-term maintenance and costs. In particular, for me, in particular, the flat roof, what is the long-term maintenance cost of that? What, is part of your job to sort of evaluate that or not? Do we not have anybody looking at that as part of the project?
Yes, it is part of my job to do that as clerk, and in addition, the 100 team still is in place. It is our intention to use them as a sounding board essentially for any major decision or decisions of concern, because they remain our ambassadors to the community, and it's important for them to be content with decisions. So, for example, we're having a meeting with them this Thursday. Chris and the architectural firm will be with us, and we'll be discussing the beginning aspects, in this case, Main Street and what that elevation requires in terms of code and potential other changes that we might want to make. So that we would consider a major issue. I think all the way along, we will keep them apprised as to selections that are being made, choices that are being made, and rely on REARC to give us the quality level that they have promised in the outline specs. So in other words, their contract already, if you look at the amendment, has exhibits in it, and one of those is an outline spec that sets a quality level that we're expected to maintain.
So I do know, I spoke with someone in our community with some experience in this area. They were willing to consider an appointment to the building committee that would look at, just, so here's, from my perspective, I'd rather pay more up front to have less long-term maintenance costs. This is just a purely uneducated example, but I'd rather put more money in the roof and the construction rather than have to replace it in 5 years' time. So just want to make sure we're thinking about those kind of costs as we move into construction and put the most money in to give us the longest term project in the end, longest term lasting. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I would say additionally that when we look back at the history of the projects in the town offices, rec center, police and fire, there was a steering committee initially, which kind of what the IPL 100 project team did for us. That was followed once we got towards the construction phase with more of a building committee as opposed to a steering committee. There was some turnover of members in those committees. Some decided that they would move on and others joined. Some remained. And some of that turnover had to do with bringing in expertise as we get toward the building phase. So we are certainly open as the steering committee, if you will, for the time being, to changing the membership to get more of a building committee if anyone has any suggestions or someone would like to volunteer.
Okay.
I'd like to ask a technical question and maybe help. Chris, this is not really a flat roof. It is designed to move water off of every part of the roof. There will be no standing water anywhere on this roof.
There'll be drainage.
So it's not, so we don't have to get into the details.
Yeah.
I only use it as an example.
Yeah, I know,
Of
but
just trying
it
to
keeps coming up.
making the point of like understanding what our maintenance costs are going to be for some of those things. Like this is a new style for a public building, and so I don't think we have experience on what our budgetary need for maintaining. The same thing for the geotechnical, I just want to make sure we understand what our long-term costs are.
Right, and let me ask you this, Chris, when you design this building, you design this with an idea, with specifically that in mind, how to maintain it and what the cost of maintaining, and we will get some type of playbook or something that will tell us how to maintain this building.
Yeah, yes, and Heather, I want to just acknowledge the importance of what you're raising. It is really, really critical on our municipal public projects for us, it's our responsibility to share that information with the decision makers to say, here's an upgraded product the upgraded cost is such, the benefit is it's gonna last another 20 years. So, we will absolutely be doing that through a range of materials, both interior and exterior. Dan, your point is absolutely correct, that all of the water on the flat roofs are collected.
That was just,
Yep, sorry.
I was just using that.
Keeps
for-
coming up, though,
I-
every time we have a
I know,
meeting.
Because that's what I can
Okay.
remember. But the same thing goes for the heating system, right? It's a new heating system for a public building that we are, in charge of maintaining
Yeah.
and budgeting for and stuff. So it's the same, I'm sorry I'm picking on the roof, but I'm trying to use it as an example and not specifically, sorry if
Yeah,
you
we get it.
misunderstand.
Thanks, Heather.
No,
And thanks, Chris.
That's a great, the flat roof is that's a great example, frankly, so, well stated.
And I'm not trying to rebut you, we've just had these conversations in the elderly, that maintenance and management and longevity and everything has gotta be built in. So those conversations are going on.
Okay,
Good.
Yeah.
Good, and that's great, that's wonderful.
It's
Great.
fun.
Other discussion for Judith and the updating process from Middlebury? Awesome.
I can tell you one thing, I don't think we could have a better three-person team than what we've got to put together a building for this town. So,
Yeah, that sounds right. Thanks so much, y'all, and sorry to keep you beyond time.
Thanks, everyone, it's great.
Yep, thank you, have a great evening, thanks everyone.
thanks.
Take care. We're getting there. I think Rebound Power's up next.
Tim Jones.
You got to be here for a lively one. You got to be here for a lively one.
He was in Salisbury, what, on the 14th of May? Were they as lively? Were you? Was it with somebody else? I'm
Nope,
sorry.
we were not, I actually have not appeared in Salisbury recently. Thank you for having us. Thank you, Kathleen, for getting us on the agenda. Tim Jones, Green Mountain Power, Program Manager in our Transmission and Distribution Group. Tonight with me, Kyle Buxton, who's our Operational Supervisor of our Middlebury Service Center, and Mike Christian, who's our Distribution Designer who designed this project. Tonight we are really just here for informational sharing purposes. We wanted to share our proposed plans to upgrade our existing Line 1 on Route 125. Currently the line exists in an overhead configuration. The part that we are here to share tonight is rebuilding the section of line that runs from Upper Plains Road through the Forest Service Road 296 and then up to the gated access at Old Town Road at the other end. Currently, it's an overhead three-phase line. It's a main feed of the region up there, obviously serving some big commercial customers on beyond the town of Ripton. What we are proposing to do is rebuild this completely underground with a couple of exceptions, bringing to bear our most resilient storm-hardened technology that we have available to us today. So really where we are in the process of this right now is we are in the approval process for our special use permit with the Forest Service. We expect in the next couple of weeks' time to have that go to public notice. That will illustrate for us, what we need to do conditionally, if anything, with the existing design that we have. We appeared in Ripton last night and shared the project with them and just got some general feedback from them. And here we are tonight to share this project with you. It's about a 10,000 foot linear rebuild. Like I said, it's going to be going underground. The technology that we're using, we've also shared some other illustrations of this industrial trenching machine that we will be using. It's essentially a one-touch direct buried machine that's going to take all of the three conductors plus a spare plus a couple of inner ducts that will be open for telecommunications, both incumbents and future users. So our intent is to bring everybody underground with us. We are currently into a project down in Townsend, Wardsboro, Dover, that is a great facsimile of what we're proposing here tonight. So we are completely undergrounding an overhead line known to us as the VH4A in a highly problematic wooded area. So we're actually in the phase of putting that underground. So I use that as an example, both of proof of concept, but also open the door to any visitors, anybody from the town that would like to see this in action. Certainly, once we leave here, you'll have our contact information, and probably I can facilitate anybody that wants to go down there and visit, connect up with our district down there and observe this machine in motion down there. So, not sure, we are here to answer any technical questions. Like I said, we're in the process of our special use permit. We've already gone in, done our wetland delineation, preliminary archaeological survey. The town of Ripton shared with us the Addison County's plan that has been furnished to upgrade that road to a possible future emergency bypass for the town of Ripton. So our goal is to get our project fully permitted and titled. It's a great opportunity for us to get in there before any of that work happens and get our infrastructure in the road, and then allow the road to be upgraded over top of it. With a few exceptions, we'll be completely underground. I think we'll be rising up in at least one location where there's a fairly sizable culvert that's there, that's actually been blown out last July. So certainly, the terrain's a little roughed up back in there. So we have no plans to do any work, obviously, until this is fully entitled. Our goal is to have this permitted by the end of the summer, and outside chance we could start the project in this fiscal year 25 after October, but certainly we would like to get this no later start than spring of 2025. I think that certainly fits in advance of when this road upgrade may happen. Once our Forest Service permit is in hand and the notice period is over, we will come back with an official ask, both of the town of Ripton and Middlebury, for a town road work permit, for the town's permission to be on the road's upper plains and obviously on Route 125 there, as we go in and rebuild through to the other side. That's it in a nutshell. Happy to take any technical questions or just kind of clarifications about our intent here and just sort of the overall purpose of the project.
I love that you brought a model. I really
Yes.
appreciate that. So do you work with V-Trans to build this in the roadway right of way?
So this project in particular will not be in state highway right away.
It's an old town right of way.
It will be in town right away.
Okay.
Originally the Center Turnpike.
Yeah, and that's the Old Town National Forest Road 296, is that the?
Correct.
That's correct. Goes up.
Yeah, okay. Good.
So from Upper Plains, where we would leave our existing line, probably have a little bit of overhead there, and then into Forest Service Road 296, and then underground all the way to the gate.
Wow. That's awesome. And so there's no service in between those points now, so you're doing it without access?
It's all
along
overhead,
10,000
it's
feet?
all overhead, that same corridor down.
Yeah.
That's our Achilles heel in this district right now. We hold our breath every time the wind blows.
Yeah,
I
was gonna ask if that's why you're doing it.
Yeah, Kyle being an ex-lineman for 20 years, spent a lot of time in that right away.
I bet.
So, we'd like to bury it, and it'll be very, very resilient.
How on earth do you pull something 10,000 feet?
It's direct bury. So the machine, I sent some pictures along, and we can certainly furnish more. So let's just picture the machine, the tractor. It's got the cutting wheel behind it, and there are maybe up to 6 reels on a combination of trailers or vehicles out in front of the machine. The machine creeps, digs, and all of the conduit feeds directly through the machine and direct bury into the ground. So there's no conventional stick build of conduit like in the old days, and then pulling the conductor through, except for fiber.
Right, and that's the question, right? Once it's in there, you were saying.
So we'll
you
have to
support other
terminate,
people.
you know, with those partners. I mean, we can run, power can run further. We can run probably close to 1,500 to 2,000 feet before we need to terminate. I mean, that's how much comes on a reel.
Gotcha.
Certainly, we're working with our telecommunications partners
So
down
you
in the
have
southern
like
part.
some kind of access every 2,000 feet?
Yes.
A box?
Yep.
That's what that was, the box that we saw?
The pictures that are in
Yep.
the packet are
Gotcha.
those terminations.
Okay.
And the telecommunications determination will be separate.
Yep.
And they may be shorter in length, and those will be roughed in and put a termination cabinet over those as well. And some of the incumbents will come along immediately, and there'll be open spaces. We've got DV Fiber is another, Maple Broadband is in the area and probably has some interest in getting there as well.
What's that thing there?
So Mike has a
That's what I have.
model of what we're talking about here tonight.
This comes in on, the particular wire size that we'd be using up there would be bigger than this one.
Okay.
But this comes in a 1,900-foot reel, about 6 foot tall. If any of you have pulled into our dooryard, they're all over the place.
Awesome.
Yeah, we've got over 100 miles of it sitting in Rutland right now.
Wow.
Can I ask, how much is this costing?
Well, it's a ratepay, I mean, we're doing it as a capital project. I think
I'm gonna pass this around.
Mike has a
Let's look at
ballpark
that.
estimate, that he can share with you. I think we're probably looking at, north of $1.5 million probably to do this project. And in particular, this project has a lot of open space, so there are some costs we won't be bearing. There's not a lot of trimming to do. We're not gonna be on roads with traffic control and some of the other, adders that we usually deal with doing these types of projects. But like I said, this is our go-to technology. If we were not to do this, we would rebuild the line overhead using, Hendrix or, more covered hardened wire as well. So the infrastructure is antiquated, so our choices are rebuild overhead, taller poles, more, resilient cable overhead, or this technology that we've now adapted and getting into down in the southern part of the state. So we expect to use this, as Mike said, we've already prepared ourselves to bury everything where we can, and this is a great candidate for that.
I think it's great. Commend you.
Very conducive to forest
This
service.
technology, the pipe on the outside is a Schedule 40 pipe. Schedule 40 PVC right now to buy is about $6 a foot. That with a conductor in the ground is $10.40.
Oh, wow.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
So it helps us fix costs as well. So we
Yeah.
got the machine, this much a day, this many feet a day and so forth. So it's giving us, just a couple of years ago, the cost competition was not close, but now it is very cost competitive to put our infrastructure underground. And I think, bury it and forget it, is sort of a little bit of a mantra, I guess, that's come along with it.
Right. I didn't realize this meeting was all going to be about underground utilities. Yeah.
We could have helped you there.
We knew better.
Anyway, I will say I ran into some of your guys just above the green the other day, moving utilities onto a new pole, getting rid of some of the extra poles in town where things have happened, and really appreciate that kind of cleanup work happening as it comes up. It's really nice.
Yep, my question is when we're gonna underground all through the town.
Right.
Hey.
Yeah, that's
Wanna
not
talk about
1.5
cost.
million.
I'm retiring in 2 years. I can't tell you that.
It comes up often in town meetings. People wanna know when we're going to underground all the utilities.
It's,
And I think, again, opportunities always present themselves, so I think, in the future, new work, new development, these are the types of opportunities that we're taking, say, okay, well, this is new, let's do it this way. In terms of wholesale, swapping out, not on our radar, so, unfortunately.
Comments or questions?
Great.
Thank you.
Great, and we'll work with Kathleen, like I said, once the Forest Service process culminates, then we'll come back with a simple letter agreement for both towns to allow us to work in your road rights.
Excuse me. Take one and pass it on. I'm gonna leave you some business cards. Feel free to use our numbers in a storm situation or whatnot. Kyle's got some here too. Don't be afraid.
Now we have a point of contact.
Kyle and I like to talk to other people when we're in the office alone. So, but we'd be happy, in the storm situation, if you have questions, please feel free to use our numbers and call.
Thank you, appreciate it.
You have a great web-based system for outages.
GMP has a great.
It's always
It's
collecting
very helpful.
phone numbers.
Great. Absolutely, thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Sorry
Have a
for
good
the
night.
delays.
Wheels of justice.
Or something. Democracy in action. Carrie, it's been so long.
I know.
Welcome. Sorry for
Good to
keeping
see
you.
back. Wow, I've seen a lot of
Welcome back.
Oh, thank you. I'm just gonna do a quick tally of what's happening since I know it's late.
Sure.
But I'm Terry Kaczynski, the district manager at the Addison County Solid Waste Management District. I've been here for 22 years. For those of you who might not know, the district is made up of the 21 towns in Addison County, and the town of Middlebury was one of the founding members in 1988. We represent the towns in all things solid waste, planning, diversion, legislative advocacy, planning for facilities, ordinance adoption, financing, and so forth. We just adopted our 2024 annual budget. We're on a calendar year. We tried to keep it tight, even though we saw some great increases in the rates charged to us. We kept it to a 2.52% increase as best we could. We lost approximately $168,368 last year just in recycling. It was a big hit because it was higher processing fees than anticipated, and recycling markets had a lot to do with that. So we hope to save funds this year because we've switched over to taking our single stream recyclables to the Chittenden Solid Waste District Material Recovery Facility. They call it recycling facility. And to use a different hauler, so that would be Lapete Trucking, who's going to take that. So we're already seeing some benefits of switching over to that new contract.
You were with Casella forever,
Yeah.
or near forever.
They were the MRF.
Yeah, right.
And-
Running the MRF and doing all the hauling.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
And now we had the option of going to the Chittenden Solid Waste District.
And they run their own MRF, the CSWD?
They own it, but Casella operates that one too.
Okay,
But
gotcha.
we got to negotiate the processing fees with the Solid Waste District.
Okay. Material recovery facility, what's the I?
They call it Material Recycling Facility, MRF. It's a almost totally automated system that sorts out all of the commingled recycling through machines and different techniques depending on the material. And then it drops it down to a bale that then they can market each material separately. So one of the things that we've done as a result of switching contracts is try to become much more specific about the number of plastic bags that are being found in the single-stream
Yeah.
recyclable. It's something that's so easy to fall into as a habit, but it ties up all of the equipment in these material recovery facilities. It's considered a contaminant, and we are trying to hold ourselves to a stricter level of prevention of contamination from plastic bags. So we appreciate everybody's patience. It has gotten better, and the haulers are working hard to educate their customers. I think the big issue right now that I've had so many inquiries about is the new Haven Regional Residential Solid Waste Transfer Station that we're siting. We closed on the property in February 2023. It was for Lot 6 of that one group of lots, 1 through 8, off of Kingsway, 65 Campground Road. And then we also closed on the neighboring so-called church lot with the goal toward using the church lot for a household hazardous waste center for the entire county, all of our towns. This is going to be a regional facility. Residential means that we're expecting the materials to be bagged. We're not going to be weighing anything. We're not going to be taking commercial loads. We're not going to be taking construction debris and all those sorts of things. But initially, we've set it up in phase 1, so we'll be accepting materials collected by a private hauler who will be parking there as a mobile facility. And they will collect what they have to collect at other drop-offs currently, which is the solid waste garbage, the recycling, food scraps, and leaving yard waste at least seasonally.
So do you have a composting set up on site there for the yard waste and food scraps?
We have the yard waste bunker that's completed. The food scraps currently are, for the most part, collected by haulers that have set up mobile trucks, and they collect the food scraps. Because of the volume, it doesn't warrant a major facility. We have a larger 30 cubic yard box at the district transfer station, and then we feed into that with a toter tipper, and we have a washer. It's a big production. We were able to get that with some 40% grants from the state. I don't think that that's going to be necessary at this point, so we're going to start out slow. And then phase 1 got delayed because of the flooding of the site. So that's almost done. We are going to do a final walkover tomorrow, punch list, and then we hope to be opening in August. We just issued a request for interest from haulers, commercial haulers, who would like to service that drop-off, at least for a year, perhaps 2 years. But that's negotiable depending on what happens with the district's final permitting. We have all our permits for this phase, but we would have to amend our Act 250 permit to add the, what we call a scale house, but there's no scales. It would be like the attendant shed, but it would have bathroom facilities and a lunchroom in it, so.
Hey, Teresa, what services or things that you accept at the Middlebury facility would no longer be handled there by virtue of this new facility? Anything?
We anticipate everything that we do at Middlebury, but it would add the bagged trash and the bagged recyclables, which we don't take from households.
So you could still dispose of hazardous waste
Yeah,
at this one? This is more of a convenience because it's more central to the region?
yes.
Okay,
But this will.
good to know.
And Fred, the piece that, the background piece here is that a lot of the towns are served by independent haulers who are either aging out of the business or have.
It's a problem for all of us.
Have rough finances, yeah, right. And so this gives stability and a centralized place to deal with household waste, which hasn't existed previously.
It will also reward our staff with finally having an indoor place to collect bulk, market the recyclables. I mean, the haz waste that's recyclable and also the haz waste that has to go to disposal. But it's going to protect them from the elements. It's going to have bathroom facilities, and that is going to be set up for cars to drive through with a canopy. And it's just so much more convenient, professional, and it's self-contained, and I think that's really important. They've done an amazing job since, let's see, 2003 with what they have, the 3 closets with the fenced-in area to do all this. But when the weather's bad, we do get horizontal blowing of rain and so forth, even though there's a canopy. It's small, we're outgrowing it. So we'd like to take some of the stress off of that. And then in phase 2, which we're permitting now, we're going to start accepting all the other things that we aren't accepting this year. So it would be scrap metal we'll have over tip wall. electronics, fluorescent light bulbs, tires in one of the bunkers, books, plastic film bags, confidential documents for shredding, recycling, and then the other materials would be part of that HHW depot. And then we intend to find out the final dollar amount for financing at the end of this year. And then we will, as a board, they will have to decide whether to proceed, when to proceed for a bond vote for one at a time or two together. There are also potential for grant funds for the HHW portion. So we're really excited about how far we've come. It's been 3 years, and we haven't had to borrow any money to do this. And we're not going to be adding any assessments to our member municipalities for this. We are based on user fees at the transfer station and any solid waste that goes to a landfill that bypasses the transfer station. We add the $35 a ton.
Okay, that's the tipping fee for,
Yeah.
that goes to run the district.
Yeah. So we're in good shape. We're very excited that we were able to achieve the new EPR law for HHW. That's extended producer responsibility that we have currently. We're a collector under the paint care program, the e-cycle program, the battery collection program, the fluorescent lamp, mercury lamp program. And Vermont has one of the highest numbers of EPR laws where manufacturers will take back the materials and pay for the cost of those, and in some cases, a portion of the cost of operating the drop-off for those. So we were able to pass the HHW one for household hazardous waste. It's the first in the country.
Nice.
That's great.
It only took 20 years.
Yeah.
We did it. And then the other victory this year was that we got the battery stewardship law expanded to include rechargeable batteries and battery-containing products, which weren't, if you can believe it, part of the original battery law.
I can believe it.
There's so many new batteries and lithium-ion batteries and all kinds of batteries that we're all familiar with in our daily lives. So that's about it. The only other thing to report is that the state solid waste plan is about to come out, and it's a 5-year plan, and we have to amend our plan to be in conformance with the state plan, and we have about a year to do that after theirs is adopted.
What are the new requirements for the SWIP?
It just came out and I haven't read it yet.
Okay.
But one of the aspects of the solid waste plans is that you have to have your facility included in the solid waste plan, or you cannot obtain a permit to operate in the state of Vermont. So we will be reviewing all of our existing facilities in our area, plus any new ones that need to be included. Because anytime somebody new comes along with a new facility, they have to amend our plan to include, just to include that facility, so.
Does this include places where private haulers operate drops, or is it just your two
Just the
depots
certified.
this one?
Yeah, just the certified ones. And there are a bunch of town drop-offs that are coming up for certification renewal, categorical cert, but it's predominantly for recycling. Most of them have gone to a model where private sector collects the trash in the food scraps, and then they collect the recycling. The town pays for it.
I miss the reuse center.
I know. Well, I especially miss furniture because we used to get some really good furniture in there. But the good news is that we have other drop-off areas for furniture, such as Hope on Boardman Street. We have reuse stores that sell textiles and household goods. We had to suspend that during COVID because we had a priority from the agency in response to the governor's prioritization of garbage and food scraps. So, and in fact, we even had that year in 2020, we had to close down our household hazardous waste center for a few weeks. But since then, we had the new statewide food scrap mandate where it had to be separated at all levels. And we had to situate our entire food collection program, expanded there at the transfer station, in front of the sheds that we were using for reuse. So until we figure that one out, the food scrap isn't essential, but we'll have to figure out what we could do. But in the meantime, we're directing people through our website, Aston County Recycles, to take their materials to the other nonprofit centers. And we also reclaimed the textile recycling program that we suspended temporarily during COVID. We have reinstated that. So that's very popular.
Awesome.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
update.
Yeah,
Other
I appreciate
questions?
it's all good news for you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
And,
Favorite place in town to go?
staying
I love it.
I love visiting, I go.
Me too. Yeah. Ah, great. All right. Where is my? Good night. All right, and since it's almost 8:30, we'll move on to item 12. Request for reimbursement for basement flooding. Hey, welcome. Yes, it is. You're Meryl?
Yes,
Where are you from?
I'm here on behalf of my father, who's 85.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Yeah. Y'all have some staying power fading here. I'm not sure if anyone had time to read. I think Crystal had attached quite a few items, but long story short, there is what's called a water hammer. Do you all know about what happened?
Yes, we all know very much about this,
Had
yes.
multiple
Yes.
people like me come in.
We've
No.
mostly heard about the town pieces of this rather than the private pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this happened, it was like 22nd of January. And it blew out my father's water meter, flooded his basement with about 8 inches of water. And town workers turned off the water. And I know that other homes and businesses were impacted. And he does have homeowners insurance, and so it was able to cover some of the stuff he lost, not all of it. But I think he is turning to you that there's basically a $2,862 deductible that he feels like he shouldn't have to pay. He feels pretty torn up about it, actually. Sometimes eyes water. I think, he's on a fixed income and just, and I think it's gone through a couple other applications. I don't know, I'm looking at you, Kathleen. Like this person. Am I doing well?
So it went to the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, who, in your packet, there's the determination that the town wasn't legally liable for that. There was also a letter to State Farm Insurance,
Right.
saying the same thing.
Yeah. And I think he was told that this is kind of our last stop, is to appeal to a town select board. And I think the main idea is, the way he talked about it just yesterday, was that, okay, so whatever happened to cause the water main to break is one thing, but it was the town who had to turn it back on. And that does bestow some sort of liability to the town. So he feels like he would like to receive some amount of money. And I feel like some of it is about the money. I think some of it feels like an injustice he feels pretty deeply about. Yeah. So that's why I'm here.
Could I ask a question? We have there was a security video from the transit center that showed, the hydrant starting to spew water at 11 a.m. And the letters that I saw that the burst water meter at your father's house happened in the late at night or in the wee hours of the next morning?
So my father's 85. He doesn't regularly go down to his basement every day to just check on things.
I just wondered if there was a period of time in between that hydrant and your incident, because it was curious.
So
We
I
wrote-
don't think we know fully, but the way in which the water meter at the house is burst is like classic water hammer, when there's a strong surge that comes through. And so the way the plumbers, and I even think the town, because we learned that word water hammer from the town facilities folks. So my understanding is it's a pretty classic, the way in which the gauge breaks is pretty classic for a water surge when the water's turned back on. I'm not an expert in this realm at all. I've learned a lot. I didn't even know some of these terms. Anyway. So, yeah. Not sure if you have any questions or.
I'm looking for them. Questions, comments, thoughts?
No, we've all had a lot of information on this specific case and the overall impact of what this event had in our town. So we probably don't have questions because
You probably know a ton more than I do, yeah.
But we got a lot.
Yeah. I think the liability element, I don't know how they determine that. And I think that's what he takes issue with.
So, it's a private decision, you know, each homeowner decides how they procure their homeowner's insurance and how much of a deductible to get. And the challenge, you know, for me and maybe other board members is trying to figure out a principled basis for this that doesn't set some precedent that invades the private decision-making piece of this that homeowners choose to do. And
I should have brought a pencil. I'm gonna write some of this down so I can repeat some of this.
You can always see it
well,
on YouTube.
You can see it.
This
Oh,
will
it's on
be
YouTube?
recorded on. I guess I was asking about the water meter, not just because of the apparent difference in timing, but if it was the meter, something about the town's meter that was defective.
Not at the site of his house, though. This blew at Hannaford's. I know that there's other people on that same water line. So, and I don't know if they just don't, you know, they have different basements, but he even has a sump pump, but it just was too strong and to keep up. And we store a lot in that basement because he moved into it and just hasn't had the energy to. So lots of things are in that basement on the floor, and so some of that, a lot of that's been covered, not all of it. And he's actually not asking for coverage of that because that feels more homeowner insurance, how robust that is. But the deductible, I completely see your point of some people might have a small deductible, others people might have a huge deductible.
You know, I think the town has to think about a legal principled way to handle this. And I'm very sympathetic to damage. I had experienced flooding in my own basement, not from the town water system, but my water heater pressure relief valve decided to release and not reset, and I was away for a long period of time. And, you know, so it is not fun, and you know, so I sympathize with you on a personal basis. I just, as a board member, I think the town has to think of a legal principled way to do this. And the way that the town can settle decisions involves some discussion amongst ourselves and in what we call an executive session.
Yeah.
And that helps us to formulate something, confer with our attorneys if we need to, or get advice from the staff. So I think what we got all of the information here, and I don't want to. If people want to ask questions, by all means, but I think our action to try to respond is to move into executive session and try to figure out how we can do something if we can.
And I think if my father was here, he'd probably be a little more fiery than me, but also
I appreciate you coming.
wounded. Yeah, it's just he's also extremely old and just tired. But
I think even there's something about, even if it's some gesture to say, we realize that we are part of why this happened. We're not to blame in a legal way perhaps, but there is something that it was turned back on in a particular way, or I don't know the exact details. In fact, you might be able to, can you tell me? Like,
No,
okay.
not yet.
Well,
We're still trying to figure out
there's
ourselves.
some responsibility that has nothing to do with my father, the way his home is, and even his homeowner insurance to some degree. So I think a gesture, even if it's not the full amount of this particular homeowner insurance
Yeah.
deductible, I feel like there's something that would probably heal. I'm speaking for myself right now and not for my father.
Okay, well, thank you for enduring the long meeting and waiting
Oh,
to help us
Oh, you'll have
with
to.
this. And
You'll hear from Kathleen, I'm sure, what the results of our discussion.
Okay. Or my father, you maybe directly.
You have the contact, I have contact information on your form. Yep.
Great. Thanks. I hope,
Thank you so
is
much.
that it?
thank you so much.
And,
Do you have one more?
enduring. No, he's staff. He just hangs out here.
For fun, okay. Well,
Just another Tuesday.
and that's a lot of endurance for y'all.
Thank you.
Given the time, can we postpone the retreat discussion?
I'm sorry.
The next item on the agenda, number 13, can we postpone it to the next meeting?
We definitely have to come back in 2 weeks to deal with the easement, so yes, I think that's okay. If everyone, unanimous consent to, move that?
Yes.
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 We don't need you, David.
Oh, of course we need it. Of course we need it.
Oh, yeah, gonna stick around for
All that sitting around for nothing.
Well, I move to approve total expenditures in the amount of $644,291.65, consisting of $494,777.47 for accounts payable, and $149,514.18 for payroll for the period May 29th, 2024 through June 11th, 2024.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All in favor of paying our bills?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Hi.
Oh, thank you. I wondered if I was gonna catch your silence.
I realized I hadn't said anything.
Yeah, okay.
Dan's.
Probably would have been on the video, so.
Right. We've got some executive session anticipated.
No, you had the board member concerns before that.
Oh, we should do that. You're right. Let's do some board member concerns. Let's start with you, Farhan.
Oh, thank you. I have nothing except I was a little bit disappointed today with how that easement conversation went. I don't want to go in detail, it's getting late, but I was not happy in the way we handled it.
Okay. Fred?
I share that unhappiness.
Yeah.
Been thinking about it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Fair enough. Heather?
I would just comment that I thought it was a good example of democracy and us having a good discussion and not just automatically approving everything all the time, so. I think sometimes we're swayed by the people who show up, and in all other cases, there has always been somebody from Vermont Gas here. And in this case, there was not, and I found that interesting tonight, so.
Is he?
Congrats to MUHS, class of 2024, graduating, and also to the summer market. They've put on a lot of great markets between this meeting and our last meeting, so
Yeah.
they got it started. It's looking awesome.
Some yummy food downtown.
Yeah.
And by the way, Table 21 funded that for the summer, so
Fantastic.
put up $25,000 to do that.
Wow. Okay, so, yeah.
Third year in a row. I thought it was interesting conversations tonight. I think we've done the right thing. I need more.
Okay, fair
I
enough.
agree with Heather, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. I thought it was interesting. I have allowing it to get repetitive, when really all the information was already on the table. I also want to apologize for my presentation at the last meeting of the naming policy. I think I brought that a little more flip, a little less diligently than I should have, and it was not my best work.
Thank you, Andy.
Okay, very good. I entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I move to find that premature general public knowledge regarding probable litigation to which the town would be a party and contracts would clearly place the town at a substantial disadvantage because the discussion will divulge the town's strategy in such probable litigation and contract negotiation.
Second?
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good.
I further move to enter into executive session with the inclusion of town manager and assistant town manager to discuss probable litigation and contracts as allowed under Title I, Section 313A1E.
Second.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Very good. We are in executive session.